Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me while I mess up an old painting. So, I hope you've seen by the title there that I'm going to try to rescue some old paintings. And welcome, my name's Dan. I used to broadcast a lot. I certainly hope to broadcast more, but I'm in a season. So let's get going. I've taken a number of paintings out of my attic, and they don't measure up to my standards of Raleigh, because I have a potential customer coming to my home in a couple days to maybe buy a Raleigh painting. All right, one of the can make these modifications. All right, so let's start with this. Let me show you a little bit about this painting. First of all, one of the nice things about it is, in my opinion, is the frame. I did this years ago, about 3 or 4 times, and I really like it, but it's a pain in the neck to do. So I didn't do it an awful lot. I'm painting on panel, on board, and the frame is a 1x4 nice hardwood lumber frame, and the painting, as you can see, there's about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches. 15 years ago when I did it, honestly, I remember it. It was maybe a couple galleries, I don't remember. But it is not weathered well. Some of my old paintings, I look back and say, oh, I do not. I look back and go, whoa, what was I thinking? So I guess that's called, no, I'm positive that that's called getting better. Right? So there's several things. And again, I'm going to try to do this quite quickly. Several things about this painting that are weak. It is indeed reflective of an older style. Hello, Uncle. Good to see you. It's the way I used to paint more, and the way I paint now is, in my opinion, considerably better than the way I used to paint. And so some of the primary differences are, in my old style, which is now being covered up, not enough grit, not enough sparkling edges, crispy edges. But I remember my initial experience of his paintings have such a, my favorite word is crispiness about them, and yet he is so conscious of hard versus soft edges. He calls it edge control, a term that I had never heard till I heard it from him. Now, I've got sticks on the painting, and it's an experiment. It's not going very well. Before I do an oil glaze, I often do oil sticks, but my oil sticks are hidden away in my van, the driveway, and I was too lazy to go get them. So I used watercolor sticks, and they're not coming off. So I'm already doing remediation. I'm gonna have to do some glaze over again, because like I said, the watercolor sticks were permanent. Now, some of you might think, well, that's crazy. You can't use watercolor on an oil painting. Okay, well, cool. Okay, no, they're the oil paint. Of course, one of the things that was missing in my old style painting was chaos using those watercolor sticks. And by the way, I do like the amount that I can see now of those. those of you who are maybe new to me or my channel, who else is watching? Oh, Lynn. Hello, Lynn. Oh, yeah. I should give the oil sticks to my kids. That's a great idea. Yeah, you could do that. All right, those who may be new. So why do I do randomness? That's a long story. I'm a grid drawer, so I'm not roadblocks and introducing completely. All right, now let's go back to lifting out stuff. I will be removing the glaze that I just put on. So using a glaze in this manner and rubbing it off gives me super precise control. In other words, control freakism without the downside, the things that are typically the downside of control freakism, which is you end up with an overworked. Long before I started, this painting never sold, so it's not finished because you don't sell your paintings. Okay, so I guess that's a little bit hard. Freedom to go back into it and do whatever I want. I started using pencils about, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago. I don't remember now. It's been a while. Time flies. It was a mistake. Not a mistake, but it was a crazy experiment. And I discovered that I like the way it looks. And in the years since, I have discovered that I'm zooming in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. I have realized, I think that's a better way to put it, I have come to realize that my use of these pencils, and by the way, they're distributed by, come on, Hank, come on, Jerry's Artorama Jumbo Jet Black. Oh, you can't see that side, sorry, it's worn off. They're not as greasy as a grease pencil, but they're a little greasier, waxier, if you will, than a Conti crayon. That's a product name, of course. So, but anybody that's been to art school knows what a Conti crayon is. Anyway, so they're a wax-based pencil and mediums like acrylics, and they play very well with pencils. Achieves a lot of what I just called a few minutes ago, what I call grit, that I had at his niece's wedding. That was great fun. He's just as nice a guy in person and just as kind of crazy in person as he is online. That was fun. Also had the pleasure, and I have neglected to post this picture. I had, speaking of have become a part of our, and that's because I was in Utah a couple. Well, when you're a little kid, what is an engineer? An engineer is somebody who drives trains. When you're an adult, what is an engineer? Oh, mechanical engineer, civil engineer, all these electrical engineer. Anyway, so I thought that was just great. He was an engineer. Anyway, Mark had a delightful time with him, and I will post his picture because I've been negligent, delightful. Let me zoom in a little bit because I know it's what I'm doing. I can hardly describe why I'm doing it, but it is definitely a straight up Dan Nelson-ism described. So I put in these purely abstract marks. I'm painting a very translucent. I'm painting around those marks. Now, why in the world this tickles me, I hardly know. I could get real philosophical and try to explain it to you. It has to do with surprising the eye, so to speak. It's not what you expect. so I don't know if you can see, I painted, that was a pencil line, and I painted up, because I've had a few viewers over the years say, well, I tried it and they smeared. Well, yeah, of course. Anyway, in my opinion, they smeared just the right amount. Whoops. My buddy Doug is here. He's my handyman. So I'm going to have to take a little break. Come on in, Doug. I'm broadcasting. Sorry about that. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, gang, I'm going to put you on pause for just a few minutes and get my buddy Doug. You want to see my buddy Doug? There he is. He's a handyman extraordinaire, including to hear both of you about your water mixable oils. Glad to hear they've fixed. I have wondered often about my extensive use of liquid. Some of you are saying, yeah, look at your broadcast. That's irritating as all. All right. Whoops. Thanks you for your patience. Nobody's watching yet, but hopefully you guys will come back. Some of you, those of you can spare the time. Bad streaming there. Sorry. Perhaps. Closely related. And so it's not worth saving. It's just, it has been done many times. The good news is that this view of our downtown, even though it's 15 years old and there's been a lot of new buildings, none of them show up in this view. So that's kind of nice that I don't, the painting is not dated by the architecture. So that's a nice thing I don't have to worry about. I guess I should say too that one of the overall changes that I'm making from the old painting is just the intensification of color. The old painting was quite monochromatic and a little bit bland. Do you like the way I said that word, bland? And so I've introduced, as you can see, more blue up here, more warmth here. I vignetted, turning that word into a noun, turning that noun into a verb. I have vignetted the corners a little bit more. It has been hanging in my den, partly behind the TV. So this decorator element, even though the painting itself has been truly driving me crazy for a year. Once again, I'm doing that crazy thing about painting around a random pencil mark that goes right through the sky down there. So that kind of stuff drives those of you who are deeply in the throes of the first half of your painting journey. In the first half of our art journey, your job, in my humble opinion, your job is to learn how to paint stuff that looks like stuff. Realism, perspective, drawing, representational, right? And of course, some people never, and that's okay. But I think there is a progress to be made beyond that stage, and that is to the second half. Just paint what's there over the 15 years or so since abstract elements in the painting. I'm not sure that's the right way to say it, but I'll let it go with that for now. All right. Maybe the sky is finished. No, mess with the need to do an awful lot up here, just a little bit around some of those abs. Oh yeah, I like that, I like that. When I'm painting skies, I really have to work at not, I love skies and I love painting skies and I love realistic sky. So my two-handed, getting too fastidious, I like that word, keeps me from getting too fussy and starting to paint sort of realistic clouds. So I want them to be realistic in quotes. Is that a good way to put it? I want them to look foremost, I want them to look like brush strokes. I want them, those brush strokes, oh, that's funny, they clearly in such a crazy random manner in the second half of the journey, and the picture to be secondary. Then the likeness is number one. All right, I'm going to leave that for now. Let's go back down closer to the bottom of the painting. I'll tell you what, on my way down, as you can see, I've got this electric easel that it's not nearly fast enough. I'm thankful for it, but it's slow. Let me mix up some dark, dull, beige, brown, muddy color. If I want the brown cooler, I add blue. If I want it warmer, I add oxide red. So I get back and forth, back and forth. If I want it lighter, of course, I add white. And let's zoom in here for just a minute to this building right here. It's a bank building. It has been, I think, 4 different banks in the years since we've been here in Raleigh. It was a First Union, then it was Wachovia, and now it's Wells Fargo as these. It's a little bit too warm, and so on and so forth. Translucent, right? If it's slightly opaque, that word is, we have a word for that. It's called translucent. And I don't need to do too much, but I need to do some, because the work that I did with pencils just a few minutes ago is just a little bit too much. I like the pencil, but it's a little too much. So, and by the way, that's standard for me. I know that's the way I work. At the end of each stage of my painting process, whatever was the last stage, there's a little bit too much of it, right? Until the very last stage, of course, and I try to strike the perfect balance of all those elements. But at the moment, I'm diminishing the pencil a little bit. So I'm looking and can think. I'm going to. You want some part of your painting, the Dan Nelson rule. What kind of paint do you use? Rembrandt paint. No. Transparent. You get dark with transparents. You get dark with transparent paint, light with opaque. I'm not going to go into the full explanation, but I'll just say if you get dark with opaque paint, it looks muddy. And in my opinion, that is what muddiness really is. There's other people have used the term muddy for different things, and that's their prerogative. My defense of my use is that all the other muddy issues are alleviated by two simple words. Stop that. Or three words, don't do it. But the muddiness that is confusing and troubling to some of you, it's like, why does that look muddy? So telling you don't do it doesn't do you any good because you're not sure what you did that caused it to look muddy. Are you with me? You probably used, and hopefully that sounds shocking to you, like why would you use white paint to look muddy? All right, enough of that. I've ranted about that over the years. Enough. I'm now following my common practice. Whenever I put one color down, especially if that color covers a broad area, like I did this medium muddy beige several places on this building, then I come back, preferably just a few minutes later so I don't forget, come back and do slightly lighter on top of parts of that. Now, I don't know if you can see this or not. I'll zoom in as much. Do you see this pale green streak that goes right there? That's one of those watercolor marks, watercolor stick. And there's also pale yellow right there. Some of you might have wondered, well, why do you... I say often, I'm using this as... I recognize that green as and this yellow. So I'm smart enough to say, ooh, that looks good. Leave it there. Don't cover it up. That makes sense? So that's why I'm not smart enough to paint good, but I'm smart enough to recognize, see some good painting when it happens accidentally, and then to leave it. And much of my painting process really could be described as I paint in such a way so that happy accidents happen. I'm going to do this building right here, right now. This, again, what are the changes I'm making in this painting? One of them is I'm pumping it. The colors in it were just too bland. So I'm pushing the color. This painting is, from what it was, just a verdigris weathered copper roof, which means landscape or downtown skyline. Random has nothing. When I say random, that means it has nothing to do with realistic representation, right? So these pencil lines here, they don't represent like, and again, that sort of drove me crazy, like what? Knife right here. That's all. Just makes a different mark. The highest single value of all the overarching principle that applies to everything. Variety of hardness and softness of edge and so on and so on and so on and so forth. So why do I use a palette knife? Variety, because it makes a different kind of mark. Now some of that same green, dulled down just a little bit, it can be found on the Capitol dome down here. So it's, and the roof right in front of it. That could be brighter. Let's brighten that up a little bit. I didn't want to overdo it, so I accidentally underdid it. My palette is, let's go ahead and pencil lines, word in air quotes, right? I did it and now I'm editing. Here I am drawing. Talking about fastidious, boy, look at that. Drawing. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing here with some of these windows. Just a little hint of a rectangle around a few of them, not too many. Again, this kind of stuff in particular makes me think of that I'm this building. Oh, I'm sorry, one of the downsides of painting with two hands is that I paint twice as many brushes as I would if I pretty intense red, because again, one of the show-off elements of our city skyline is this little bit of a building roof right here that's red. So a native of Raleigh would recognize that as the historic Briggs Hardware building. So it's one of those details that's pretty important to get. And now again, coming back with a slightly lighter version of that red. Does that make sense? That's a common practice for me. Well, while I've got red on my brush, let's go up here. There's a flag hanging right here. Very small, but just a tiny bit of red and a tiny bit of blue later will do. Hey, okay. Now, this amazes me. I didn't know how to paint tail life, but clearly I didn't, because I did a very, very bad job. All right. One more layer. You can do 4 layers sometimes, but usually, and certainly at this size, 3 will do. All right, so once again, still kind of messy. You know, wipe this paint off my brush with a tissue. Yeah, Uncle, I hear you. The bad broadcast. Tiny dot of pure white. All right, now let's do headlights. Similar kind of thing, and I'm going to do traditional headlights, not the, I don't know what they call them, what color they are. I mean, what kind of technology, but those headlights that are blue now that you see so often. Blue, white, I'm not going to do that color. I'm going to do traditional, warm white headlights. They're much better, much more interesting. Drone in the background. Kind of like Bob Ross, I guess, right? Droning in the background. All right, so that took a little detour there, because I just decided, I can't believe I didn't do this 15 years ago when I did this painting the first time. I can't believe I left all the street lights turned off. So I'm going to turn them on now, which means never paint with your fingers, especially when you watch me paint with my fingers. I do not have any toxic colors. You paint the glow first. You paint the aura. Green paint. Does that ever happen to you? Oh my goodness, what a mess. Color. I'm trying to mix up a warm yellow to warm enough. Was not. Let's try this. It's not familiar with that. It's it looks like a pale yellow ochre but lighter. It's not exactly, but it's very close. Naples yellow is a normal color on my palette. I like it. But I'm not crazy about the color that I just put down there, so I'm going to warm it up yet one more time. More yellow. All right, I think that's better. No, I know that's better. I think it's adequate is what I should say. Now, much lighter, much lighter and more opaque yellow. Again, achieving just the rest, just about pure white, titanium white, but not street lights. So, as I mentioned earlier, I've been staring at this painting. It's been on my, even though it's so old, it's been bothering me all year. So I like it much better already. Much better. All right, let's go back to finishing some of these buildings. And my time limit, my self-imposed time limit, is just about up on this painting, so I don't want to take too much longer. Let's mix up a pale yellowish brown for some of these buildings over here. Again, just boosting the chroma, the intensity of the color here a little bit. One of the buildings that I drew many years, this one right here, me for 15 years. Good to finally get that fixed. So without cleaning these brushes, using the same brushes, oxide red and ultramarine blue. So a dark, dull brown. And I'm going to bring the easel back down again. Lynn Beasley, yes. Thomas Kincaid headlights. I hate to admit it, but yes, you are correct. You regulars know I like to say good things about Thomas Kincaid because I like to watch my fellow artists' heads explode when I say good things about him. If you're a better painter than he was, many of us we don't care terribly much for what he did with his skill. People that have made $1 bazillion. But anyway, he actually was a very good painter, and before you criticize him, you should learn everything you can from his painting and let it go at that. Again, in my humble opinion. Everybody knows how humble I am. My humility is legendary. Now, I really mixed up, I did some stuff here, but I really mixed up this dark brown to do some details in this building right here. It's just a little bit too flat, boring, lacking in attention or detail. Just a little bit. So the principle is that I exercised 15 years ago when I did the painting was correct, that I don't want too much attention drawn to this big, large, up-close brown building, right? correct. My impulse was right. I just overdid it, in my opinion. Overdid it just a little bit. Let me see if I can fix that glow a little bit. Yeah, a little bit better. All right. So it became too dead of a dead area, right? I don't want it to come toward us too much, but it was just a little bit too low energy. My favorite word for this, I want. Can you write that right there? That last stroke. No, you. If you can see it. No, you can't. Just a little bit too much. Too much energy. So I'm smudging it out with a rag. There we go. Yeah, it's my favorite term for this kind of thing is it's a balance thing. It's an intuition kind of thing. And again, my intuition, I think today is better than it was 15 years ago. That's good to think, isn't it? All right, so I've pumped that up just a little bit, and I think it works better now. So I added the energy came from out of a 1 to 10, it was a 0.5 or a 1. Now it's a 1.5, okay? Same thing here. There's just a street sign. Yeah. A little bit more interesting. Just a little bit more interest. So the way I like to think of, the way I describe the way people look at a painting, there's a focal point, and with a 1-point perspective like this, it's almost always right there. And then our eyes take little junkets, trips out and back. So we'll look at this, we'll look at this, come back, look at this, come back, look at this, come back. It gives us aesthetic pleasure when looking at a painting. Uncle just said, needs a splash of color. I think that's a very, very possibly true. Now I'm building up color considerably from what it was. That I think you're probably right. And I'm going in that direction now. Whether I'll go far enough is a good question. Oh, I haven't mentioned this yet. I've been thinking about it, but I haven't said. One of the other things that my more mature or more recent painting practice is on any broken color yet, and I plan to do that. One of the last stages that in the last colors, I save them. I do both of those toward the end of the painting process, producing some quite strong color. A springy yellow, spring green, yellow green chartreuse. Right in there. Dangerous color. Be very careful with this kind of color. He's so easy to overdo it. But I think I'm okay so far. Now, once again, just, you know this, don't you? Since I did this color, there, and there, what does that mean? That means I follow up, and again, usually follow up immediately. Yeah, backseat driver, good description. Follow up immediately with a slightly lighter version of what you just did. So I'm just adding titanium white to that pale green, to that spring green, yellow green chartreuse. Now it's even lighter, and just on top of little bits of the color. This principle, I got to tell you, this this practical, very specific that I have introduced or that I've taken up in my painting in the last 20 years. That one simple trick of come back and do a lighter version of it. And when I sometimes use the term one tick lighter, and for many years I thought that was just an abstract. But I actually think I actually have in my mind a definition of what a tick is. You don't have to agree with me. But if you imagine a 10-degree traditional grayscale, a tick is the difference between one degree and a 3 and a 4, between a 7 and an 8, between a 6 and a 7. So it's very, very subtle. Because if you overdo it, it doesn't achieve the same. It doesn't achieve the same effect at all. Now here's a good place to introduce some color. Part of the reason, by the way, by those of you who are maybe not my regular viewers, you may be wondering, where's my photograph? and do either I'm painting on plein air, or I'm looking at a photo. Just paint it from memory. I just added a little bit of aqua, I guess would be the. That's a practice that I do often. I haven't mentioned that yet. Scratching. Oh yeah, all my cars are a little bit too bland. For what it's worth, and it's worth something. If you paint cityscapes and you got a bunch of cars, here's a question: what color should the cars be? I have an answer to that question. Like a parking lot full of cars or a street full of cars. The answer is 9 out of 10 cars are some shade of gray, from light gray, almost white, to dark gray, almost black. Be careful of the dark gray part. Okay, and then 1 out of 10 cars is red. Now, that's kind of funny. Ask me how I know that. I don't know. It's decades of painting. But it's true. It's true. And if you don't follow my formula, you're probably screwing up. That's a little bit harsh, but I do remember as jobs. They paid me, at the time, real money. And part of the reason I learned this principle is because I screwed up on that particular illustration. Nobody ever said anything, but I realized shortly afterwards that, because I had cars, parking lots, aerial view, cars are small. And I had much too wide a variety of colors in the cars. Now that wasn't the first time I learned that lesson, but, well, maybe, that wasn't the last time I learned that lesson, but it was certainly one of the early times. So there you go. When you're painting a bunch of cars, 9 out of 10 are, I'm doing some broken color right now. Pale purple. 9 out of 10 cars are gray. 1 out of 10 is red. I don't have any red ones in here, and I don't think in this painting, I don't think I need it. All right, now I've got just about a perfect. Usually when I do broken color, I guess it's a purplish gray. It looks purplish gray on there anyway, on my color. Let's do a little bit more of that over here. Okay, you regulars know this, but let me repeat for those of you who don't. What is broken color? The answer is broken color now, as if it's a separate and distinct step in your painting process, because that's what it usually is for me. So you put down a color that's equal to the value that's already on your painting in any given spot. Same value, that is same lightness, darkness, but different, in fact, as much as possible, contrasting color. Now let me give you a real simple example of that you can almost always looks good, and I'm going to do it right now. Whenever you have foliage, like trees with leaves, foliage in your painting, and it's green, right? Introduce some burgundy into that green. I'm mixing up some dirty burgundy right now as we speak. I don't know if you can see that color. Again, trying to match the value your green foliage tree. Just a big splotch of it right there. Let me see. Do you see that right? What is surprising? That's pretty bold, but I'm going to leave it. What is surprising to me is how much our eye accepts it, believes it, good point, but realism is always popular, always sells. You know what I mean? Nothing always sells. But anyway, it's always popular. And it's kind of funny. Every once in a while, as you regulars know, every once in a while I'll do a bunch of abstract, purely non-objective abstract paintings, right? Because I like abstract. By the same token, every once in a while I'll do a hyper-realistic painting. It's been a while now, but I do it just because I like it and it's fun. For me, it's an exercise in artistry and art, because they don't sell much, because it's not my style, right? All right, let me take a little breath here and think about where I'm going next. I'm going to go up to the sky. I think I can punch some light and color right in here. Forgot. And so much better than it was an hour ago. That makes me happy, eh? But not very quickly. I'm mixing up the color for that sky, and evidently I'm having a hard time deciding. So this is kind of actually a muddy pale yellow. Let's see how it looks. So it's not very clean, but my guess is it's going to appear clean because it's slightly lighter and brighter than what's there. I don't want to jump too far away from what's already there, because what's already there is working enough. So that's, by the way, I made it a little bit cleaner, brighter yellow. That it's the same thing as saying I can push it further. So very broke. All right, so I can, without much trouble, I'm just adding a dollop of titanium white to about adding a pale, I am going to add a tiny bit of pale yellow to that color. By pale, I mean Hansa yellow, lemon yellow, cad yellow, light imitation, since I don't typically use cads, but one of those light colors. I'm actually trying to increase the color here, a little cautious here. It's like, and you have to do some remediation. Fine. Once again, you can see me fairly. Those of you who missed it before I did my glaze an hour ago, I rubbed abstract, and I'm preserving them still. Again, and that preservation of that orange line. In fact, it's a little bit too strong. I'm going to cover up a bit of it. There we go. That's better. It has nothing to do with realism. Okay, like, is that supposed to be like a telephone wire? Is that a chemtrail? Are they poisoning us from the skies? No, none of that. It is pure, same thing up here. It's purely abstract streaks. And you might say, well, I don't think they look good. And I would say, okay, I can understand that. For some reason, I think they do look good. That one, overdid that one a little bit. Let's soften that. All right, now I do see, so I've got this very nice color on my brushes. All right, since I've got, this is all too strong. Being a scaredy cat. Ooh, that is better. And then I'm going to... Wow. That painting just got better. Right there. All right, now with same thing with this pale whitish yellow, yellowish white, warm white. Except every once in a while when I just want it a little faster. I wanted to, oh my goodness. How much better this painting has gotten in the last hour. I really that I wanted to, but what the heck? Who cares? It's as long as it's working, right? You know, you don't hang up your painting in a gallery and right next to it have a sign saying, "Yeah, but it took me 7 hours." You don't do that, right? That's not. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how long it took you. All they care about is what does the painting look like. So I'm finding this pale in much of the painting. Hello, Radina. I'm not using water-soluble oils. That's somebody else. I have used them, but I'm not using them right now. I'm going to warm up this. When you want to warm up your white or make your yellow, that you don't want to appear yellow, don't use yellow to warm up your white. Use yellow ochre, generally speaking. Any especially, and the one that is the most is Indian yellow. Indian yellow it looks so muddy, dirty, brownish there on your palette. Typically, Indian yellow does, but oh my goodness, don't be fooled. It is a powerful pigment. So don't use Indian yellow unless you really want some yellow. I have significantly toward evening from what it was an hour ago when I started. And I'm okay with that. All right, I'm getting kind of close, I hope, to the end of this operation. And I need to sign the painting. How about that? I don't know whether, maybe I never did think it was done. I don't know. Anyway, I need to do a considerable work on the front of this building right here. Once again, I like the pencil that I put on here a while ago, but it's just a little bit too much of a good thing. Too much pencil. Also, there was a tiny drawing issue on this building that I'm very happy to rectify after all these years. It's been bothering me for years. Sorry. Oh, too much. Easy fix, though. There we go, perfect. And finally, everybody in Raleigh, this is our tallest building at the moment. There's been several other buildings proposed that are going to go taller, but at the moment, this is the crowning jewel of our skyline, and a very distinctive architectural element on the top. It's white, pyramid shape. I need to fix the drawing on that just a little bit. So, accidentally, does that ever happen to you? You know, guys think that, oh, if I was a good painter, that would. I'm trying to mix up a pale, cool gray again to draw the shady side. Oh, and you know what? That's a perfect color for doing some of this right here. Good. All right, now I have to do a little bit of work on the dark side of this building, and it's a dark, dirty gray, as you can probably see, gray-blue. And I want to mix up a slightly lighter version of what's already there, just slightly lighter. Okay, that's a little bit more than slight. It's too light, so let's darken that a little bit. Some violet, dicing violet, and phthalo blue. That combination actually moves us toward darker fairly quickly. Do the same. It's exactly the same as what's here in some color stick, actually, and I like it. A little bit too much energy there, so hang on. I got to paint with a rag and just soften some of those blue-gray edges that I just did. There we go. Oh, so much better. Whew. Then let's take this all the way down to the building beneath it here. All right. Now, I realized a while ago that this building would look good. What is now the Wachovia building. No, I'm sorry. When I painted this, it was a Wachovia building. It is now Wells Fargo. But I'm not going to put any indication of there's actually a sign up there, but I think I'm going to skip that. Redundant, I feel like, in this painting. Not necessarily. While I'm doing some blue. Now, I've said this before, but I want to say this again. When an artist says that, that's not bragging. Here, and if you're an artist, you know this. If you're not an artist, you might not realize it. Here's what it's like to be an artist. We take a guess at what we think might look good on the painting. We say inside, we say, I think it might look good if I do a little bit this. We've done this before, but we're never really sure until we see it. And then we do it, and sometimes you go, ooh, that worked out nice. Other times you go, not so much, right? And that's what it's like to be an artist. So, like, as I did just a minute ago, when an artist says, ooh, typically they're not bragging or showing off or bragging. They're just saying, ooh, that turned out nice. Now, practicing this, come back with a slightly lighter color, right? There we go. We'll do a similar thing over here in this. Very good question. So how much energy is how much attention do I want to draw? There's no easy answer. It's always intuitive. Like, paint on a moving target. Well, don't recommend it, but that was kind of fun. Agree, Uncle? And I agree with you about the water-soluble stuff and not using just water. That's been my experience as well. Brushes and hang it up with some blue, again, which is not a realism consideration. You're saying, oh, you're making reflection on the windows. Not really. I'm just introducing a contrasting color, very subtle, very subtle. I think I could do maybe one more thing and then sign it and be done, at least for the next 15 years. And that is, I would love to sell this. I'd love to sell it on here comes to my home to look for a painting. Bear with me just a minute. I need this. I've got this over real estate just for blue. So, all right, I'm going to add some sparkle. So, broken color, pushed color, and sparkle. What I call sparkle, and by lights, very light, the lightest lights. And so I'm looking at the whole painting, saying, And yes, the answer is especially right in here where the sun is coming up through the breaks in the streets, right? And coming across the street and hitting this stuff here. I think it can all use a little bit more light, or sparkle in this case. So I'm mixing up titanium white and a little bit of Naples yellow, just so it's warm white on my brushes. I certainly would not want this part to be cool by any means. And this is glow kind of stuff, right? So I'm trying to be very careful not to be too careful, but to let the brushes and the paint talk. Let them. That's okay. Not great. I'm going to add some yellow to mixing up quite an intense. I just am feeling dangerous. So this goes under the description of pushed color, right? Very intense. Oh, that was nice. Whew. Very intense orange. So once again, typically the last stage, which I'm certainly doing right now, is broken color, pushed color, and what I call sparkle. And just little bits of intense light areas, like the word sparkle I think suggests. But at the moment, I've got quite an intense orange on my brushes, and I'm happy with what it is doing. So this is definitely pushed color, and it's mostly right here in the focal part of the painting. This a little. Oh yeah, a little bit of reflection. People like reflection. And I meant to do reflection on these lights, never got back to it, so let's do that right now. Sorry, I'm whispering, because I'm painting very hard. Oh yeah, that's good, messing up that orange a little bit. Unusual to have so much energy going that close to right off the edge of the painting. unusual, but for some reason I feel like it works. Evidently I'm still not happy with these taillights, so forgive me just a minute. Okay. I never finished this flag. Too much red. Let me add some white. Just a hint, a smudge of blue. One little thing that's bothering me a little bit, and that is that this wall of green trees is too unbroken, too solid. So I want to find some way to break into that a little bit. Just to break up so it doesn't look like such a wall, because clearly we have sun, anyway, right here. We have sunlight breaking through between two of the buildings here. There we go. Much better, much better. I like that well enough to introduce the same kind of thing down the street a block or two. And having done it once, I'm going to add slightly lighter color to it. That's better. And I like the color I've got on these brushes right now. This pale, dull green, sort of like very. All right, I'm already, which is like a orange brown building. A little bit of sparkle there. Broken color right here. Yeah, nice. Mixing up, adding a viridian-ish green to that. Because I see a place for broken color right up here on this building. Oh, nice, 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 nice. Whew, glad I did that. One of the reasons that that green right there worked, I just painted this here, 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 and there. Those little smudges of green. One of the reasons they work is that underneath I have this abstract green streak. Again, there's another one right here that's left over from those, and here's another one right here, left over from those. Those two greens play with each other. One is underneath, they're not, is experience momentary confusion. Now, this is pushed color. This is a green, traditional green street sign right here. It had a ever so slight green tint to it. I've just added a bunch to it. That looks better. A little bit more energy there. Works well. Broken color right there. Broken color right there. Pushed color right there. All with the same color. Depending where you put it determines whether it's a push color, broken color, or sparkle. More green right there. Ooh, some green up here. There we go. Yes, yes, yes. That's a good idea. I keep saying that. So evidently, there's 4 others behind me that I'm hoping to get to, but painting had some little bit of charm to it. The